Well, I am calling upon Oleg Bondarenko, ready, head of Committee of Subsoil Use and Environmental Policy of the Parliament of Ukraine. There will be this online address from the chief coordinator. Let me announce Emre Karakhmatoglu. Ksenia Orenchak is invited to this podium, the Mining Association Executive Director. Igor Nikitenko is with us here, Vice Rector on Academic Vice Rector, Dnipro Polytechnical School, Tatiana Kordenko, Deputy Business Ombudsman. She'll discuss the Council. Pavlo Borsunovsky, Acting Director General of State Information Geological Front of Ukraine. This is digitalization. We're going to discuss Daniil Lobkin, co-founder and operational director of Beholder. We will discuss this AI as a new notion in exploration and subsoil use. Well, we are going to discuss this. If you're not yet back to your seats, just keep quiet in the background. Oleg, you were smart. You concluded the first panel with your discussion, and you started the second one also. Let me ask you to explain, because in fact, at the end of last year, we had the policymaking for the critical subsoil resources, the critical and strategic material. Do we read it in the same way, this definition? How does it correlate with the European definitions? And we started, and as a journalist, I'm interested to know what it is, what this is as a notion. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Let me thank the We Build Ukraine Foundation, Oleksandr Kubrakov, personally for holding this event. This is the first one after adoption of the new law, and that has a difficult name, but this is about amendments to the respective laws for mineral resources, basically, and components of critical and strategic importance. To cut a long story short, this is a long name, a cumbersome, sophisticated name, because when we started reviewing the draft, in the first place, that was back in 2021, the impact design for it, pre-design for it, was much less ambitious. That was mineral resources, raw material base, and people present here are all aware of this base being about geological exploration, basically. This is about how we explore, identify the plots as lots, and the principal impact design was to find some additional sources for geological exploration. Usually that was about state service of geology and subsoil.
However, those challenges that we have seen over the time of the war and the challenges that we have seen during the preparations for the accession to the EU and our negotiations with partners and investors encouraged us. It sounds weird when I say encouraged, because it should have been really a natural process, but still they encouraged us to change our legislation dramatically. And the biggest change was the amendments in 2022, 2023, if we talk about the subsoil use legislation, when some of the companies really saw that as a development of a new code on subsoil use. And those changes to the subsoil use code did happen, and that made this whole area transparent, predictable, mostly, as one that promotes the interest of investors, the one that gives a chance to clearly delineate the authorities of state agencies, not to be dependent on the resolution of the cabinet, because it kind of dependent a lot on the actual team that worked there. We, on the level of the high-level document, prescribed all the requirements to the permits, to the investors, to the subsoil users. And in here, I want to stress how important it was that we described the mechanism of separation of the special permit, so the chance to sell the special permit to subsoil users in parts. Not all subsoil users know that they can do it. And instead of creating some quasi-instruments or pseudo mechanisms, they can use that. So the new updated legislation was put in place to encourage new investors and promote transparency in the market. However, what the market and the investors demanded from us, and the international partners as well, that was to create conditions for the development of the subsoil use market in terms of the strategic and critical raw materials. And that was a matter discussed during negotiations, at public events, conferences, attended by our public officials or business officials. And that was something required from us to join the EU. We already mentioned today the Critical Raw Materials Act as a document of the EU, which is now the most important in this industry. And it covers not only natural resources, but we're talking about the natural resources, subsoil, and raw materials of strategic importance. If we talk about the strategic minerals, there have been already strategic level documents concluded with the EU, or they're about to be concluded, for example, with the EU and the UK and other countries. However, without the legislative regulation, these agreements would be half senseless, half empty. So thanks to the Ukraine facility, thanks to the legislation, and we need to be appreciative of the Ukraine facility because it encouraged a number of other processes that unfortunately would delay the whole thing. So thanks to that, we implemented this law and introduced the definition of strategic and critical minerals in the law. I don't want to provide you with some basic info. Some mundane things. Still, let's dig a little bit deep into the law. Actually, if you are interested in subsoil market, please read this law. There are 75 pages, of course, because that requires a lot of strategic changes. But if you read even the general part that describes the amendments to the national program, you will find answers to some questions regarding certain minerals or the general direction of development of the industry, of the geological explorations, and so on. Certainly, it is kind of descriptive, and there were complaints by Verkhovna Rada about that. Still, this national general program for development of the market shows the indicators and the flags that should be taken into account when you do the geological exploration and when you use subsoil minerals, because the program has some prompts for the subsoil users as to how their activities will be looked at by the Ministry of Environment Protection, how their activities will be regarded from the point of view of our European aspirations and the climate change matters, how the activities will be correlated with other strategic actions taken by our country amid the war in particular. So this program really is worthwhile looking at it, and it contains a couple of answers to the question that you asked today about the explorations, about the needs to amend the budget code, and so that it could provide support to geological exploration. You have exhausted 7 minutes, so you have 1 or 2 minutes, not more than that. Okay, let me then finish. Probably you understand that this topic is interesting, and I can take for hours about it. But let's look at the law and the amendments to the code on subsoil. Now we say that in our country, minerals of ferrous, non-ferrous, iron ore of the national importance. So this clearly indicates what we mean and what we don't. It can be strategic and critical. And what do we mean strategic importance? Strategic importance means that these are the minerals that are the raw materials or the processed minerals that contain raw materials, which, and I stress here, which for the domestic processing plants, and we stressed it specifically for the local, for the Ukrainian industry players, because we care for Ukrainian industry, for bringing investors to Ukraine instead of exporting these raw materials without processing outside of Ukraine. So for these national industry, these materials must ensure national security, development of innovations, and ensure the stabilization of economy. So there is a big definition of strategic minerals. The critical minerals is that same strategic ones, but there are still risk of failure of supplies of such raw materials to Ukraine. So that's what we have in the code, in the legislation, and this is the framework for the cabinet to decide what belongs to the list of strategic and critical minerals. It is for the cabinet to approve those lists. We provided the short-term deadline, which wasn't 6 months or a year, it was 3 months. Unfortunately, Ms. Kramarenko left for another meeting, but I would love her to hear that, because I reminded her about that. That there are 3 months only for you to come up with secondary legislation for the market to start operating properly. So the list of areas, the accurate delineation into auctions or not, we are providing actually support with this donation. The need for exploration and the need for extraction and the limitations of the investors. Why do we say limitation? Because we intentionally limited the list of investors, and those investors must be only from Ukraine or from the economic OECD community or other countries with which Ukraine signed direct agreements. So we cut off any possible satellite countries that are affiliated with Russia. And I hope that the access to our minerals, minerals of strategic and critical importance, will be provided only to friends of Ukraine, who would benefit Ukraine and who would keep these minerals in Ukraine to improve its defense capability, to improve its economic potential and the development of our country. This is the major point of this law. This is why we adopted these laws. Thank you. Now we will have an online request from Honor Group. We know they cooperate a lot with local communities, in particular because they take this a huge portion of work, because they train local communities where they carry out extractions. They conduct lectures for them about the subsoil. Not only do them, only them do it, but now we will have Emre Karahmetoglu, Chief Coordinator of the Honor Group, online.
Доброго дня, мене звати Емре Карахметолу.
Good morning, I'm Emre Karahmetoglu. I'm the Chief Coordinator of Honor Group in Ukraine. Honor Group is an international company that has been working in 14 economic sectors. Construction, engineering, investment, production, energy, agriculture, and mining. We have over 150 projects in Eastern European countries and Middle East. In Ukraine, we've been working for 20 years. We build the future. This is our motto, and we invest a lot in the development of the communities where we present and work. The Honor Group has invested over $500 million in Ukraine, and our plans are to invest another $500 million by 2030. One of the areas for investment is extractive industry. We develop the mining and technological production areas. We mine graphite ore in Khmelnytsky region. We paid 44.8 million hryvnias for the license, which is twice as much as the starting bid was. We plan to invest $50 million in the development of this graphite reserve. There are reserves worth of 130 years, and the Honor Group can invest up to $200 million into it. Enriched graphite from Ukraine will be used to produce motor car batteries, and can be used in the steel industry. Honor Group is active to establish community dialogue, and we are in dialogue with association of extractive industry businesses. We started this project to talk to the communities, to have a dialogue with them, to be in line with the ECG principles. In particular, these trainings, this dialogue helps to overcome this resistance to the investment and ensure participation of the local community in decision-making processes. We have an active dialogue with communities as to the consequences of the mining activities, and prepared to facilitate the assessment of environmental impact in those communities. During our cooperation, the local community members can learn about our activities and learn what we do to minimize the negative environmental impact. But sometimes our competitors engage people to exert some negative influence. We need to understand that there is a need to receive the special permit, but that does not regulate in any way the relationship with landowners. So this must be reformed. The investor, when he buys a lot, special permit, the right to land, and the other permits, and the local community members must be engaged into the dialogue so that outsiders could not disrupt the investment plans of the investor and influence the decisions of investors and deprive them of their chance for development in the future. The unreliability and inaccuracy of the geological exploration, that's not a problem, because investors invest a lot of money. They invest money in test drills and need to have accurate data. There is no mechanism to return the money in case of inaccuracy, only through court. Local communities don't get a lot of rent money from the extractive activities in those communities, which leads to problems with the investors. The rental fees are sent to the central budget. The local communities receive only 3 to 5% of this amount. That's why the amount of the rental fee needs to be increased. The portion that remains in the community. To sum it up, what kind of reforms do we need for a transformation of the subsoil use? Firstly, the cooperation with the special authorities. The state subsoil agency must be in dialogue with local communities regarding the local land and municipal land. Second point, there is a need to encourage the subsoil users to keep dialogue with the local communities and encourage them to sign memorandum of cooperation that should be part of the auction bid. Thank you. Please welcome that with applaud. Kramarenko, he was speaking online, and we asked him, we invited him, and he found 5 minutes of his time to speak to us online in Ukrainian, in fantastic Ukrainian. He clearly explained that cooperation with communities is being done with the support of National Association of the Extractive Industry Companies. And Ksenia, I wanted to give the floor to you. What do you think about this cooperation with Honor Group? And at the same time, could you please tell us how the geological exploration should look like today, and how the cooperation with local communities should look like today? Thank you to the Gennady. Thank you for finding time to be here with us. I want to say, first of all, that we work not only with Honor Group. There are other companies that are members of our association, and only the members of our association have this privilege of carrying out this type of trainings. The level of awareness about the subsoil use in Ukraine in the local communities is way too low.
And the basic economic knowledge is at the same floor level. There is one community, a rural one, where the local councillors have the level of awareness of the 9th form or higher secondary, only just one person with higher education. That could be the mayor, village elder, as they are called. That's the situation with the economic indicators or economic offers. When the investors come, we need to do education, starting from the kindergarten level. I worked with the Geological Service. We had our exchange with several study tours to Sweden, and we were they had even the blocks for the kindergarten kids to play with the subsoil deposits, iron ore or any other, and the products to be produced. And that's about knowledgeability. The trainings, well, it's easy. It's geology, environment, or ecology, social economic indicators, everything that has to be answered, and we provide the answers. So with the specialists, it's around four parts, and we have different communities getting together, and that's how it happens. Of course, this is a difficult piece of work. This is a difficult dialogue because we have to convince, to persuade, and communicate. Back in 2020, wanted to travel different regions and discuss the available things. And we when we have investors coming, they should be received appropriately and properly. I talked to the associations. We have 4 associations of our communities in this country. All the registers are closed. The access provided by the State Geological Service on request, and everything that we can do. If we can, we are eager to help. That was my answer to the question about the communities and trainings about geological exploration. Well, I'm very thankful that we adopted that law, made it into law, and there are many hints for the investors, and Volodymyr was advising you on reading it with a reason. And one of the key reasons is this thing. Geological exploration is to be done at the expense of the government and at the expense of private investors. That's in bold. And I think the mechanism should be added to that. Let's hope that we'll be able to finalize this. There are different countries with a considerable proportion. The junior companies market, that means that the companies, geological companies, come and they have tenders with the state bodies, and they explore using their own funds, and then this government compensates for that when the lot is sold. And at that stage, it's a win-win situation for the state and the geological companies. We have to open up to make this market that will entail development of the labs that we lack, and the drilling works, drilling companies that will have their presentation in February, and the first lab also for the critical raw material. And after adoption of the law on mineral raw material base, it will be considerable scope, this geological exploration. Thank you. I tried to be as fast as possible and intensive also. Well, now a couple of words about the effective businesses, the active companies. We had this case with attract investments. So we have Yuri Himich, Forex Group, Millennium branch. I want him to share his case with you. Well, that's a move. That's a move. But I don't think that you should leave your seat. Just use the mic. Yes, in fact, I would like to say, uh, um, my colleague from Metinvest was basically correct, but after 30 years of our independence, regained independence, there's just one field with the iron ore developed and commissioned. Well, that's with all us knowing that Ukraine has the first position in the world as to deposits of different ores, the first place in the world still. Yes, our deposits are not that rich of ore as Australia and Brazil. That brings us to the fourth position in proportion. Nevertheless, after 35 years of our regained independence, just one field. Another two are awaiting development. Shamaniv in Kryvyi Rih region area. It's all about the London Belaviv, my own Belaviv field, but unfortunately they changed the legislation since we took over, and the special permit has its time limits. There are additional indicators for 1% of the mineral resources in order to be able to continue with this special permit. But as our colleagues stated, it is impossible today to do within 20 years. And I would like to support Alexander Vodoviz. This you spent 0.5 billion to get to the first ore, and then the ore enrichment plant another 1.5. And in addition to that, the land issue is not regulated. All the lands are titled, regardless of into individual plots, regardless of the ban on that. The owners want 1% to apartments in Kiev. And this is also the cultural knowledge. This is excavation of the mounds and the forestation. It's a purpose that can be only changed by the cabinet, and it's not an easy pathway. So we have this case that we discussed with the MPs and the state subsoil agency, Georgian subsoil agency, when the company invested $190 million as of now into development of this field, 1,500 hectares of land already owned or leased, and the people relocated, and the permit is expiring. Will we find another score of $1 million to find another, to acquire another, is a big question. And Article 15 of the Subsoil Code is not very specific in that, and by 2025 the country will be facing this risk to lose 2 projects for development of iron ore fields, because Shamanyu it will expire on the 7th of November. On the 20th of December with us, it can be prolonged till the end of the martial law situation plus 6 months, but 1% is still unattainable from well, that is extracting and removing 1% of the deposit. That's the requirement. Well, we wanted to seek your assistance. I'm addressing the government. This is not an unsubstantiated claim at all. It's a proper one. Igor Nikotenko, Vice Rector on Academic Work, Dnipro Polytechnical School, and we have one thread that unites us in Kiev and January 2024, in Kyiv Polytechnical School, they opened the technological shelter for students. This is a model shelter. They can learn, they can develop their. You will have your opening on the 5th of February. Yes, thank you, but we have programs galore because we understand if we don't invest in to our studentship, there will be nobody there to extract critical raw materials. We'll have as fat chances at the Mars or the Moon, for that matter. We have this WOW physics project. For example, last Saturday, our chair presented some optics using precious materials, diamonds, rubies, and the devices that they are used in. And this is a big problem I wanted to emphasize. I'm very grateful for your invitation. I understand that I'm the only educator here because this is the situation of some Darren reforms, attestation of societal disciplines, and then industrial. People, drillers became miners now. Starting from next year, they will become miners. We have downsizing our lab where we have received many guests. Some of the members of this audience included from the bigger companies. It's the majority. That was the enrichment chair. Now we have mining. It's not extremely popular. This is a 4-storied lab and a landmark building, piece of heritage, and there is other labs housed there. Are these 4 million annually, 58 million we received for the tests conducted there. 2 years ago we had 16 million. We maintain this facility, the people, the professionals, but very few people willing to become miners. Everyone wants to be a lawyer or a programmer. There's this video on the internet when there's this, you can see the golf balls never getting into the right socket, and somebody who does not want to be a lawyer or programmer for that matter, and they get grants and pay for it, they can choose a geological or mining specialty and they want to go to Horishny Plavny and get a job there. Well, I have one such student, but the probability is very low. But that's his career. He started with an enrichment company, and when we do the geological, the Rybatsky pit, he knows all the insects and their Latin names. We have, if we want development of critical raw material, that was the time when they founded our university. St. Petersburg University would have 60 graduates, 40 remaining with the agencies because they were children of the bureaucrats. People who would come to Donbass after 3 years, they would become managers of the mines, and nobody wants to go to the mine anymore. Nobody wants to work with this. People have to be trained here. And in Kharkiv they had a congress, and there was Alchevsky as the patron of this, and they then built that Katarinoslav, now Dnipro, mining school. They created their own higher educational institutions We are now business-oriented in preparation for this meeting. I asked three departments to provide their proposals for the legislation, including the law department. It will take me more than an hour to discuss this. This is about forestation, this is about adjacent production, the water management. The most valuable thing is our scientists and researchers who can consult, advise, participate in discussions, do their tests and research and make money. And we are very active with the production, manufacturing process. Our actor sees it that way. It's either you work for a business or have a business. And the majority of our faculty are drifting in that direction. And we need prospects for students. So with the governmental funding as it is, in a couple of years we'll be out of any students. It's not just our university, but Taras Shevchenko University, Lviv, and other educational institutions. With this reform, with the grants, perhaps we'll have some grants from the industrialists to actually find people willing to become such professionals and to foster them. Thank you very much. Bioplasm, they started school teaching people how to work the blood components, starting from secondary school. Tatiana Korotko, a simple question for you. Perhaps we are all aware of that. What is this Council of a Business Ombudsperson? Critical materials. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss our role and this bridge between the private sector and the government. Will be been active since 2015. We do a review of grievances and we have reviewed and resolved I think more than 13,000 cases, 27 billion hryvnias brought back to business in excessive taxes, and we have on the board this organization you were referring to, EBRD, the government, OECD, and 5 powerful business associations. And now living in through the times, which are very volatile, we become adaptive, and we also review those tactical issues, specific grievances, complaints. This is very important. We retain it, but what is important is this expeditious development. This is the hot phase of the war on one hand. On the other hand, the European integration is due, and this expedited economic development, because we do not know how the hostilities will conclude. This is the paradigm for us to review the project in this sector, because eclectic thinking as to how the permit is issued, the transparency, it's always important, I agree, but here we need bankers who fund, well, the funders, the finance for investors and projects. They have to think local authorities for them to avoid this narrow-minded vision that they can work and live on the subsoil that has subsoils and conduct this dialogue with the technologies, investments, and capacity and capabilities of the companies interested to join the hunt, so to speak. But and environmentalists are not enough. We are all in favor of a beautiful future for us and posterity.
What if our biggest strategic partners leave the climate change agreements. Yeah, it means that this paradigm changes for us as well. So I would say the following. The issues that are related to investments, to critical materials, where we need high-tech ways of producing commodity goods from them. In this case, there should be the governmental decision that aligns our fantastic decentralization reform with the obligations for the development of this cluster. I don't like the word cluster and cluster approach, but that's the best I can come up with. And we need just, to get things done. Ensure everything needed, like process water, everything needed for the construction industry, like uranium and lithium and other stuff. These are materials that are important for us, and we need to discuss them not only in the paradigm of subsoil extraction. Yeah, we need also to talk about them from the paradigm, from the point of view of value added production, because without that the big investors will never even consider these projects. They also are obliged to be with this paradigm. I listened to the panelists from the first panel. I didn't hear them all, unfortunately, but what I heard, I think, is the thing that sometimes the private investor, private sector, the players are naive that saying that it's only enough just to have a dialogue with EU and change our Ukrainian realities, but it's much more than that. If we want to be a part of this legal environment, we need to play by their rules, and we need to change our business practices. We need to learn such things as compliance or requirements or something, or we'll just be a raw materials add-on when we lose part of our territory with our subsoil, and we just export materials. But even in this case, our export capabilities, export capacities have changed. They got narrower. Today we have the geopolitical partners that facilitate this process in a bad way, like Poland, all the strikes. And if we go to the EU, the borders will be in another part of Ukraine. And this is another paradigm that we need to discuss. So certainly we should talk about industry in the narrow sense of the word. And we can talk about signatures of certain documents, but we need to have it concerted with the general issues. Another point that I want to discuss today, I haven't heard that yet today, but it's really political, that is important for development of the industry. This is the matter of sanction policy of the country, because the Council of Ombudsmen, Business Ombudsmen, discussed 127 sanctions over 10 years, and I saw that the trend is downwards. I could see that before the war, indeed, the state authorities were improving. There is still an outstanding issue related to the rental fees, but that's rather a tax revenues matter. That's important, of course, yet I'm talking about another thing. There have been dozens of companies who approached us and that have been sanctioned, and we can't take these cases because we understand that there's a war out there. We all are citizens of Ukraine. We all understand the situation, and the sanctions are imposed based on the criminal cases that are not public, and we can't objectively assess those criminal cases, because we just can't. But that leads to the legal uncertainty as to how the sanctions are imposed and whether there is a mechanism to lift them or challenge them in international courts. And this is a huge cluster of the subsoil that is covered by that. I can't give you numbers, whether it's like 25% or 1/3 of the companies, but that's a lot. And these number of businesses, either nationalized or given back to the previous owners, this huge business share is still on hold. It's waiting for something. And each investment project, especially with high added value, with high investor interest, takes some time to develop. Especially those that may have influence on our geopolitical situation and so on. As a result, those projects need to be developed so that they cannot be possibly challenged in courts later. The preparation must be rock solid to avoid risks, investment risks in particular. Only then can Ukraine be a reliable and predictable partner in the area of subsoil use. At the end, I want to say that in the Council of Business Ombudsman, we deal with reconstruction matters. I actually deal with it. We see that there are quite a few problems, and we have engineers and lawyers in our team and policy people to be able to look at the situation from different angles, because we need to make fast decisions during the war. But as a result, we come across different problems with businesses later when there are some gaps that we didn't think of, and we need to do that to avoid those risks. Thank you for your invitation. Hope we can continue. Thank you, Tatiana. Actually, we're here today to think about the future, not to look back in the past, but still we will need to look in the past, and that's why we need to talk about the State Geological Fund, and we will need to do that. Mr. Pavlo Bovsunovsky, Acting Director General of the State Research and Production Enterprise, State Information Geological Fund, Ukraine. In our first panel, we talked about the problem with outdated data. That's impossible to digitalize them all. The data are not collected in one single site. So what do you think? What are the problems with digitalization have we got today? Do you believe that we need to open up all the data, or we need to classify some of it? What do you think? Good afternoon, colleagues. Thank you for the invitation. About your questions. The geological information has two kinds. There is secondary information that we have on paper or magnetic strips, bands, and there is primary geological information. So this is like the stone drilled from a well that is analyzed to understand the percentage of certain mineral, applying certain formulas to understand the portion of minerals. Then it's taken for examination, classified according to Ukrainian international standards by competent individuals. So if you mean the secondary geologic information, there are fewer problems here, because it's only about time and the expenses for scanning, for creation of geospatial data of the deposits referred to in the resolutions of the Cabinet of Ministers. But there is no coordinates of the areas, unfortunately, of this section. So we need to have the coordinates, then they check them against the natural reserve objects, understand who is the owner of the land there. We need to understand if there are any other special permits already issued. These are the key issues to deal with these 125 geological sites that have been already selected, that are mentioned by the cabinet as strategic sites, mostly uranium, I think 17 uranium sites, and about 100 sites that are going to be auctioned. This work has not been completed yet. It's still ongoing, and after we are done, then the number of the sites can reduce significantly because of the problem that we discussed here. Second point about the digitalization. To engage investors, we need to speak the same language with them. Certainly we can't carry out assessment and approval by Georg Krilsko and other types of methodologies, but the investors are interested in another type of information. They are interested in the size of wells, the content of minerals from the major kind of mass drilled out from the test wells, and the access to this primary material that was used to do the calculation and estimates. So it's not about classification as such, it's about proving the accuracy of information. And here we have a big problem, really, because unfortunately we have lost a lot of this primary materials. We only have secondary materials, but it's really hard to prove something if you can't give the source material that you used for your analysis. Whatever classification you apply. A United Nations classifications or Ukrainian or another one. And this is a problem, really, but we can't address it because those businesses or institutions that used to keep these drill samples, they don't exist any longer. Now the government is doing whatever it can with the limited resources. I know that there is catalog in place funded by the government to inventorize at least something that we still have got. As to this primary geological information, a secondary one, then with the assistance of the EBRD, at least we know what to do and how to do. And if we get money and if we are all alive and kicking, we can achieve strong results. The first pilot project has been already completed. The European experts have been really successful. We were awarded for digitalization efforts, and everything is more or less okay in this regard. Let's to answer your question. Question about the openness of data. We sent an official letter to the ministry, and the person entitled for classification issues, I know that they are aware of our position. We advocate opening up all the information, and we need to declassify information because that actually is redundant. It creates obstacles that even creates additional risks. Because we need to have the classification room. We all are obliged to keep the classification standards. We can't leave Ukraine without special permits. Yeah, there is a 10% additional pay from your base salary that you get, but I'm prepared to let it go. If you don't mind, if I still have time, I want to cover other issues. We talked about the problems, we talked about the sites that we call promising, but we don't talk about something else, that some problems that we have in Ukraine in big numbers. we are not talking, unfortunately, about occurrences that have not been registered. All these 125 sites, these all sites are included into the national balance sheet. They are, as a result, they are conceded by the ministry and the state geology service to be able, so that they could, offer them through auctions or other mechanisms to investors. But there is another type of data, about type of sites. We call them occurrences, and this is something that has not been proven yet, but at least they can give us additional resources. Even if 1% or 1.5% evolve into the actual deposits registered, then they also can be offered to investors later. But these type of sites also offers some investment opportunity as well. We talked about this law with complex name. The idea is to amend the appropriate national program. This is the law, a comprehensive law that gives a huge opportunities to potential investors to invest into geologic explorations of these particular occurrences. To invest basically in something that has not been registered as strategic site because they are not included into this list of strategic ones. This law in particular amends the law or Article 16 of the Code of Economic and Subsoil that regulates changes that can be introduced into the list of strategic registered sites. So if a site is registered in the cadastre, then it can be listed as the one that can be offered to investors. Or there is another mechanism. An investor can publicly express its interest, take part in an auction, prepare geologic materials, and bid. So this range of occurrences, this range of such unregistered yet sites can be also prepared with the investor's money. It can be later included into the list, then investors can receive the special permit. And this slide shows that this is a unique chance for junior companies. A big investor will not go to just empty field where there is no pre-feasibility study, but the junior company can. We talked about compensation by the government for that kind of studies, but a private investor can approach us, look at the documents, make a passport of the deposit, have this site included into the list in the future, of course. Right now, you can do that. You can catch this last train, prepare the object, get it included into the state cadastre, and then later receive the special permit according to the procedures we have already in place. And why is it a golden time right now? Because the code on subsoil and the in particular amendments regulate the procedure of alienation of permits. So you take the permit for, not for the greenfield, but for the occurrence with low reliability. You carry out your work, you spend your own money for that, you prepare a pre-feasibility study, and at any stage of your exploratory work, you can sell to a bigger investor the project with already a higher reliability level, which creates a new niche in subsoil use in Ukraine, because Ukraine is really rich with subsoil. But over the past 20 years, we've had this gap that can actually be filled by the junior companies. And that can create a new market of drilling services in Ukraine and insurance of geological risks. because the companies that can bring all the project to the end, they will have fantastic opportunities. There's going to be a new cluster of the Ukrainian economy.
Another important thing, presently it's mainstream in all these sectors, and geology is not an exception. Shale gas, but this is not just a mainstream thing. This is something being actually implemented. In particular, the Agency for Geological Information, together in consortium with German and Finnish geological services, won that tender of the European Commission for distant probing for critical resources. We are responsible for the territory of Ukraine. There is no magic there. It is all quite transparent. We create a block of data, geophysics, geochemistry, the wells. It is analyzed from the point of view specific spectrums of satellite images, and we do that with the space agency, and then we adjust the models to understand that spectrum with the specific fields with the explored resources, and then another territory with similar geological conditions and analyzed, and the probability of useful mineral resources is high. So we start our work, and there is this colleague from Beholder. I wanted to ask you, because when you mentioned AI, Daniel actually got alarmed. That was my impression. So we have an investment, it's not a grant, more than $1 million. Ours is a bit similar, but the general grant for consortium is 6 million. So our project is much bigger. You fathom that in investments. Measure investment. The colleague will discuss it in more detail. I'm not trespassing on your time unduly. But you have already measured your millions with his million. We still have to earn the 6 million. The principal point, the reason why I'm here, we are a state-run commercial enterprise, and the opportunities I discussed are on the surface. But the investor having the money and the experience has to make the first step. They have to get this information, process it, make an investment decision, and we are the company that can help you with the first steps. We do the compliance, we prepare databases for the international companies and also domestic operators. We have to do it all with the primary geological information for the companies through our connections with the people who know where the documents can be found or might be found. So we are open, ready to cooperate and work for the good of RST. Thank you, and our sector. Thank you very much. Daniel, you have been announced in a way. AI, what can it do in geology, geological exploration? But are you competitors with our previous speaker, or it's just like a chess game? Well, thank you for the invitation. I usually present standing. Answering your question, we are not competitors the way I see it. That's what we discussed a couple of months ago. We'll see where it gets us. But we are a commercial entity, and we have to please our investors, providing income for this startup. I have the timer with me. I'm fast. I'm a fast speaker. And let me discuss our startup, and let us see by show of hands the electric car owners, solar panels, wind panels. No. And the last question, any of you with a cell phone, can you raise your hands? Everyone. So here's the question. They are all interrelated in such a way that By 2050, we'll have a whole of $17 trillion in critical minerals, and us as a consumer society coming to such events in electric cars, living in the houses built on new materials using electric power as the principal source. So for the first time in history, we are switching from the model where we burn things to the model where we accumulate things. This is for the first time with humanity since the cave age. We were burning first wood, then coal, then oil and gas, and now it's electric power that has to be stored somewhere. In order to be stored somewhere, this hydrogen, this is processed in the bottom of the slide. You can see that this is helpful. $17 trillion missing, and we're trying to solve this problem. This problem appeared 18 years ago. We didn't mention that at the first panel. 15 years we need on the average. Thinking of the mine, if we're very lucky and business-like, we spend 15 years to commission it. This is about exploration, lack of data, the quality of data available. It's not just Ukraine. We're not unique. Let me surprise you. In Indonesia, we have a big project with even worse problems. In the Soviet Union, we had some kind of systemic approach, and in Indonesia, that was the colonial age. And the quote of data was Tanzania. They know the data at all. They're trying to catch up now, but we are trying to bring about analysis, AI, and IT solutions for exploration. We are not helping at the stage of production. We're helping at the stage of the operational, not the operational stage. The way it happens, we absorb. Let me skip the slide. And we absorb different data, not just satellite imaging, but global geological, magnet anomalies, and many other. We absorb, prepare, because as my colleague correctly mentioned, this is not just the lack of data. There's plenty of it, but the quality matters, and the AI availability. So if you have a bad book for a child or bad examples, most likely this child won't be able to tell good from bad, and learn for that matter. With the AI, if we provide the feed, it's the wrong data. It's not just the AI inbuilt in our company without any external solutions, because we are very specific in preparation of data. Yes, actually we call it lasagna. We pile up different layers, different data correlations. Our geological department identifies the predictors. We get this for a vast territory and try to decide whether now there is any likelihood for a mineral to be there, or the mineral 3D. Oh well. And this is our recent development, the 3D version with AI, 4 kilometers deep. This is just an alpha version, but we see the potential to use the lasagna data lasagna not just for the surface predictors, but deeper predictors for the deposits to be identified and export. Well, in the GeoPortal, now we have this alpha version of a smaller GeoPortal, which was executed with the EU, a small consortium of this region, different layers, accessible globally. We can choose a plot and download the data for the future to work with it. This is magnet anomalies, this is relief. And in any case, this is pre-alpha, let's say, to showcase our capacity for the bigger players, because the government, former Yugoslavian Republic of North Macedonia, they want GeoPortal for their territories, because we understand as candidates for the EU that sooner or later the investment can come to your country. About our success, we have 15 global pilots. We've had clients paying for our solutions in different parts. It's not just metals, but geothermal energy. Recently, we discussed and signed a big project in Indonesia, in Sumatra, for the thermal flows. Well, our team is here. Recently, we were mentioned as for among the most promising 23 startups in Ukraine. Yes, in any cases, I promised if you're interested to get access to our Geo portal, write to us. Let's connect in LinkedIn. But we have to look for and find resources better and faster without any harm to the environment. Thank you for the invitation. Well, now we can approach the part where we can take questions from the floor. The first person to approach me was Lyudmila, Association of Professionals in Environmental Professionals. Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank you. I'd like to see everyone for outlining the challenges. They are comprehensive, clearly outlined, but risk management is an issue. I would like to focus on that. Of course, we discuss the hardware. It becomes clear that in Ukraine, ESG is still a novelty in the context of investment. It's not just about reporting. It's about management, risk management specifically, and development of this field. Tatiana said that we could not discuss that topic without participation of communities, banks. Banks would tell you that no investment, no capital, and we cannot join the EU unless we implement the directives. And the subsoil users and their majority, if we do it with to a T, with a verbatim, so to speak, we cannot get anywhere because Europe was getting ready for ESG for 30 years. We heard about that from Mr. Vodoviz and other speakers. It's one thing when we discuss prospects and projections for the critical raw material and green revival, green recovery as the triad Dnipro Polytechnical School. There is hope because there's these cadre, but here's the question: how to gain trust? And that's what I would like to crown my intervention with. When we discuss requirements of the EU implementation of the directives, yes, the bar is set very highly. But what troubles investors is this, because I represent a whole spectrum of the people responsible for implementation of all the reforms. It's not just about intentions, it's about implementations, and we collect what does not work in Ukraine. And we register that the great majority of the drafts that we put through the pipeline have national peculiarities, and this is a great concern for the investors. You know the law on EIA. The representatives of the Ministry of Ecology and Subsoil Agency are gone, but they have much stricter requirements in Ukraine than the directive requires. Why we decided to do it that way in Ukraine? It's a rhetorical question, but no investors queuing up. Well, we are talking about environmental things, and here's the question. Since 2018, we adopted the law with the stricter requirements for the investors for the EIA Oleg, we approached a long time ago because the Ukrainian legislation is not the worst in the world, but implementation is a different matter. There are many questions or issues raised when investors come to Ukraine after the hellish compliance. They choose a different country because of the overregulation, and we have a whole set of bigger problems: lack of trust, mostly, and lack of any outcome of the reforms. As example, I would like to add some meat to my words. Let's take this IA law. There are certain procedures, and there is a lot of analysis done by the courts. They cannot start doing that. So with the technology and equipment, people cannot start their operations. Another law providing for the state agency for Subsoil and Geology to issue permits. With the water, this is Zhytomyr, the lawsuit being under review, and that the Ministry of Ecology, according to that law, provides for getting water, drinkable water, from the major source for the regional capital, Zhytomyr. That's the multifaceted legislation, comprehensive legislation that we are trying to discuss. Why this is happening? Because when we have Europe demanding, check what is demanded by Europe or required by Europe, because this is the national peculiarity. We invent things that are never required. No. It's not just for the critical raw materials, not just sustainable development, but also the economy of Ukraine. And this is a very popular point that environmentalists and conservationists are against development. No, true environmentalists are in favor of sustainable development, and they have to help investors implement their projects. So I'm calling upon you, be watchful, because the European legislation is implemented, is transposed in Ukraine not in the best way. We'd have to survive, win, and then recover with the real European rules and the bar set high in the European fashion, after the European fashion. So, Maria Korona, EU expert in critical raw materials, gone. Valery Hates, Director of Institute for Economic Projections, gone. Alexey Falkovich, please. Thank you for inviting me to this exciting conference. I have two questions, or two issues to discuss. First, when we were discussing digital transformation, we discussed the good old geological information which is available, and the Geological Information Agency is there, ready with it, but the primary geological documents for the critical mineral raw materials, 95% of cases, it's absent. So reliability of the secondary information is to be questioned. So in order for this information, for the sites to be reliable, we have to make a control well, drill it, and first of all to explain it in terms which investors can understand. This is a pre-feasibility study, of scoping study if there is this lack of information. And we said that therefore the state commissions for the sites being auctioned or provided for PSA with a special permit with the EIA preparation of the site according to the standards which foreign investors can appreciate, and this is all auctioned and presented for the special permit. The cost of this case is much higher versus the cost that is declared for the auctions or PSA for that matter. The state lacks the funds. So Oksana was right. We have to invite private business.
Бізнес приймає участь в цьому конкурсі. Він готує об'єкти разом з землею, разом з ОВД, разом з міжнародними стандартами і виставляє його на аукціон. Але цей приватний бізнес заключає договір з державою, і держава потім йому повертає всі ті вкладення, які він потратив, плюс якийсь бонус, який буде оговорений в цьому договорі. Це є бізнес, це окремий бізнес. І якщо ми це зробимо, ми швидше підготуємо ті об'єкти, які пропонує держава на міжнародні партнери. У мене все.
Дякую вам. Роман Ніцович також хотів поставити питання, експерт Діксі Груп. Будь ласка, давайте міміков.
Дякую. Користуючись нагодою, хотів би...
I want to announce certain public consultations that we will have with different players, in particular subsoil users. We prepare some studies at each stage of creation of value. My question is about what kind of advantages do we still have in Ukraine? How can we strengthen them? There are not so many, as I understand. There is an issue related to the increase of transportation tariffs. There is an issue related to qualified staff. There is a question regarding the geological information. So what is our edge here? What can we still do? What can we still use as a competitive advantage? Thank you. Anyone to answer? Thank you. Yes, we do need to do our homework because it's really strange to invite investors to unproven, unchecked sites. And we certainly, as stakeholders and the private businesses, as all political actors, we need to remove these investment obstacles, the ones that we mentioned in panel one. And our competitive advantage is that geopolitically we are very well situated for the European Union. Let me add to that. Indeed, the location is good, the logistics shoulder. That's indeed an advantage. We have the system of railway networks. I think it's third most developed. If we talk about the distances. And Ukraine is a big country, and the geological location gives us a lot of advantages indeed. As Hernando de Soto says, that the fact that you have gold under your feet doesn't mean that you have gold. You need to turn it into capital, you need to describe it, you need to legalize it, you need to be able to extract it and use as an asset. But the gold that has not been turned to the actual hold, I mean, we've got plenty of it. I think that the key advantage, I'll give you a comparison. If since we understand the list of criticality of resources, there are 34 minerals. In our subsoil, we've got 28 of them. So I think this is the biggest competitive advantage. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed to all the participants of the second panel. We can continue our conversation. Or no, so we have still a question. Thank you. I'm Volodymyr Boyko. I am founder of the informational company, Another Info. I want to ask about one of the advantages, and the question is how can we use it and when can Ukraine use it possibly? what unites the Western countries like Australia, US, Canada, UK? It's the ability to carry out strategic projects by using private capital. I've been looking at the subsoil use market in Ukraine for like 5 years, and there are absolutely different types of subsoil users. All of them are talented, all of them, they can do it. But Yuri from Ferexpo told us the story, this company that has its shareholding listed in London, and we have a company that can get access to special permit with the authorized stock of only 100 hryvnia, and the government says you can go both ways. My question is, my question to the representatives of the government and businesses, when can we take and use this advantage that the UK, Canada, and Australia have been using? I would love to leave shareholdings of the Velta company, and I want to leave it to my children to inherit. And this boom is inevitable, and I hope we will have this boom in the area of subsoil use, and certainly it would encourage the local communities. It would give us a chance to understand the nature of the conflicts, understand how to address them. So the question is, how and when can we use this advantage that the leading countries of the world have been using? I can comment on that. As to the authorized stock and shareholdings, there's a criminal opinion. Money is not a problem today. There is another type of problem. From point of view of our so-called advantageous location, we need to forget about that. There is Russia there, and this is our future. Yeah, and we need to understand the risk. Actually, geopolitical location is a risk. So the security that we need to ensure today, just to be able to do at least some sort of business thinking. Second point about subsoil, technology. Without the technology, we can't extract anything. We can't be even thinking about that. As to the critical materials, we need to combine the geopolitical interests with the partners who have the technology, so that we have a win-win for us as Ukrainians, so that we can have companies here, because they can find money, but they will not work in Ukraine if they are not certain, if they don't have trust that indeed, yes, we can work in this country in the longer term. That in this country, regardless of any changes on the high level, still the direction will be the same. Our closest partners are the EU. We chose it as a direction for us to move on. We embedded that in the constitution, and we need to take gradual steps toward this objective, not to disappoint our partners with some inconsistent decisions when we take only one step forward and then 2 steps back. But the EU is now in the geopolitical storm conditions, and it's obvious. So what we can do while there are geopolitical changes going on, we can do our homework. And I mean the steps that all my partners here mentioned. If we have draft laws, we need to pass them into laws. We need to, yeah, please don't repeat yourself, please. Yes, the question was about the shareholders. Don't please go to the second wave of answers. Do we have any businessmen prepared to answer the question about the authorized stocks and the shareholding type of ownership? before 2014, special permit was a really classified information. Can you remember that? No, geological information. What was the way to get it? Now we have transparent auctions. Everyone is talking about the access to information, digitalization. So do you understand where we've been and where we are now? And just and we did it only over 10 years. So I think that kind of decision can also happen within 5 or 10 years. Subsoil use sector is not something elite. Anyone, any sole trader, private entrepreneur can bid and get permit to produce sand. Not all investors can do that, of course, but the investors are different. The amount of investment can be different. So if there is a joint company established to get some special permit and invest, this is only the will of the business and only the will of the economic entities. And this is the biggest advantage of Ukraine. So Volodymyr, yeah, you're doing everything correctly. I think if you learn about an interesting case, give me a call, I'll buy at least one share. Any startup dreams of becoming a unicorn, so with a capitalization of over 1 billion. I'm looking at our clients, and they are almost there, but none of them is going to be listed in Europe. They are going. They want to start the IPOs in the US, not EU. So we should not be talking about the Ukrainian sovereign stock markets. Yeah, there will be always stock exchanges. They're going to be top sites for anyone, like New York. So you just need to be able to engage international capital and then grow to the level when you can list your shares in Toronto or in New York. And you can just go there and buy shares if you want. Thank you. The last question. Well, Volodymyr Golovatenko of Institute of Economy and Forecasting of National Academy of Sciences. I'm a senior fellow. Most of the subsoil users are going to use new technologies. I don't see anything new happening here. Let's take titanium dioxide. If we repeat the sulfate or chlorine technology to get the titanium, nothing good is going to happen because it takes thousands of tons of really hazardous waste. The energy intensity is huge. There are new technologies that still underdeveloped. For example, compound computation. Let's take lithium. If you find minimum lithium that we have in Ukraine, then we won't get anything earlier than in 15 years. Denis Alyoshin showed in his presentation that the content of lithium in the ore is 1.25%. This is quite high content. But we extract one, and the 99 we take as a waste. And as a result, we have hundreds of thousands of tons of waste. So, there are other technologies to get lithium from water. So the water that we receive when we drill wells and mine shafts and so on, mines, coal mines and so on. What I mean is we need to look for new technologies, and we need to understand what to do with the waste, not to treat it as a waste, but as a raw material for further development, for further growth. That's the future of the world. Okay, please share what you think. Well, it's impossible to give any other comment here and any other, because I want to also to be a shareholder of Velta, just like my colleague here. Actually, it's not a question to us. Velta can brag about the use of titanium, new technologies. Yes, that's what we can brag about. Actually, a couple of points about our project, which is part of the Ukrainian titanium cluster. It has several phases. Phase number one is about developing the titanium deposit, where we have a closed loop cycle, circular economy, where we are going to have no waste. So every classic type of waste is treated as a value-added product, and there are already markets for that. So what we understand as a tailings pond, for example, even the products there, we are going to treat them as products, not waste. Thank you. The question is, how can you extract lithium from water? Well, you need to know our deposits, our fields. You said 1%, and the rest is the other type of products that can be used to produce China. The question is, what can you use to fill the gaps that you make in the subsoil after extraction of lithium? We don't have anything to use. Every field, every deposit is something complex, and we need to treat it as something really complex. Well, please don't start a competition of knowledge. We have Nadra Info and journalists here, but the straightforward answer would be much depends on us, but much depends on you. Yeah, communicate information, that's hugely important, especially we need to start with schools. With schools, we need to encourage children to learn. That's the best investment. And thanks that we heard that as well here. Thank you to everyone. Thank you to We Built Ukraine. Thank you to our media partner, NV. Let's take another family picture. Please come closer to each other.